Lauren, welcome back. Welcome back. How you doing today?
I'm good. Had a good day so far. Actually, I had kind of a boring day, so this was like I've been waiting to get on the
Oh,
show,
the
honestly.
pressure, the pressure. Episode 9. We are now almost into February. The Super Bowl is over. The college football playoffs are over. Indiana and the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think many people going back to last summer, I don't think many football fans would have paired the two of them together as the two champions at the end of this season. Certainly Indiana would have been an outsider. And I think actually the Seahawks, although they would have had a bit of a reputation maybe coming into the season, especially with that defense, interesting season, I think, all around, honestly.
Yeah. I know that we're a college show, but that Super Bowl was honestly, I felt bad for Drake May. Like he now has the most sacks in a postseason out of
Yeah, I
anybody.
saw that.
He had beaten Joe Burrow. So like it's not really it's not really
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I stayed up to watch it. I haven't done that every year, just for for different reasons. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay up and watch this one because I've been really invested this season. And like it's 19-0, and you're thinking, what the fuck? 19-0 in a Super Bowl. And I just think that was a testament. Like the thing is, we did a podcast last summer, me and the lads, the Talkin Balls lads, and like the Seahawks, I mean, I was so far off. It's actually embarrassing. I think about the things I said back then. I said the Broncos would be terrible. I said the Chiefs would make the playoffs. I said everything I said, actually, I don't think I got any call. I don't think I got any prediction right. So I'm going to really lock in. My plan is to lock in this offseason because I've no doubt when this summer rolls around, there's going to be predictions and there's going to be questions asked about how the season will go. And I'm going to make sure I get them all right. That's my goal.
Oh, like you have like a goal. Like you're determined to get them all right.
Yeah, because like, these clips go out online and it's like, wow, look at this guy who speaks on college football but has absolutely no idea what he's talking about because he makes the most ridiculous predictions ever. This is not good for my reputation.
No, especially because I've been right with like all of mine.
Oh yeah, okay. So what's this? Oh yeah, in week 7 or week 8, you chose Mendoza and India. You chose Mendoza to win the Heisman when they were 7-0 and he was having a good season. When literally, call me a hater, it wasn't even a great Heisman season anyway across the board. There were no standout players. Statistically, I don't even think Mendoza was that good. I do think Indiana, he did deserve to win the Heisman. Indiana were the best team for sure, and he will be the number 1 pick in the draft. But like, you compare his stats, and I said this a couple of months ago, you compare his season, just individually, his season to Burrow, even more recent winners like Caleb Williams, any of those kind of Heisman level winning quarterbacks, his is way lower than anybody else's.
Yeah, but like you said, it just like wasn't a good Heisman year. Like if this was the same season as Joe Burrow, we'd be looking at two completely different teams. Like 2019 LSU versus 2025 Indiana are like two very different sides of a spectrum, I feel like. Um, but I mean, if you look at a team like Indiana and what he was able to do with it, like no one else should have received the recognition. Like you said, like no one else should have won the Heisman, but I feel like
Mm.
this year just all around there was no one where you were like, "Oh yeah, 100%." I feel like after like when I said like it was like week 6 or 7, 8, something like that, when I said that he was going to win the Heisman, it was because there was no other option. But I was still firm in my pick.
But it was fully deserved. It was absolutely fully deserved. I mean, like, not to re not to we just said 5 minutes ago we're not going to rehash this, but like, the undefeated season, like the kind of underdog story, like they were never really favored until they made the playoffs, really, and then people were like, oh, actually, this might be a legitimate championship winning roster. Like just honestly a fairy tale ending, but I I do not like, look at us getting sucked straight back into last season. We're gonna cast an eye forward, and that's the plan. That's the plan. We have spoken in depth about all of last season. We've covered most of the big schools, some of the smaller schools as well. Florida's terrible year. Another Florida school making the college football playoff final, although they didn't win it. So some good success in Florida, some not so good schools there. But we are going to be focusing on the future. So what's coming up for college players now? Well, the combine, obviously, I mean, I'm sure I don't know the lifestyle of a college player, but I'm sure right now they're very, very focused on the combine. Um, for context, for people who may not know, the combine is when a bunch of the top level prospects for the draft go. Generally, it's in Indianapolis, in the Indianapolis Colts Stadium, the Lucas Oil Stadium, and they go there. They meet scouts, they meet managers, they meet coordinators, and they work out. So that's where kind of the famous 40-yard dash is. They'll do bench press. Obviously, then they'll do drills that are specific to their own positions. I've actually watched it live. I'm a massive, massive draft guy. I maybe haven't revealed that, but
Really?
yeah, like every year, I don't think I've said this yet. Every year, like I would say for the last 10 or 12 years, I read between it's not, I would say like mid-season. Maybe I'll read a few like 12 months in advance, but definitely from mid-season around Christmas. I'd say I read about 100 mock drafts between the college football season and the
Really?
NFL. Yeah, I read like all the NFL ones, the ESPN ones, the Bleacher Report ones, like the specific kind of like scouting ones. Um, Now I don't, there's nothing in it for me. I don't like, I don't know, gamble on like who's gonna go to what position. But I have been. It's because I've thought about this because obviously the NBA has a draft as well. Although theirs is a little bit different with the lottery. I think the draft concept is amazing. It's amazing, and it's like one thing. There's a lot of stuff that we don't have in Europe that you guys have in America, but the draft is special. And I'm sure if you're American, maybe you just think it's like standard because it's like kind of a big part of your sport. But let's just compare it to like soccer or football over here in Europe. If you're just like an academy, like if you're just a teenager, you just get scouted into an academy and academy is kind of like a youth, like youth football. And then you either make it or you don't, right? So like you're 14, 15 sometimes, and then maybe you have an injury and that's just like your career is done. But like you kind of grow, you're kind of grown into the systems from an early age. I think the draft, going to college and getting drafted, I love it. I think it's just such a cool process.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny that you think it's like this really like cool thing. Like you said, like we grew up like knowing the draft is this day, and like you play football to go to the draft, and it's different with every sport because in football you have to go play and then you can get drafted versus like in basketball. In basketball, you only have to play 1 year and you can get drafted out of that. Like that's what happened with Cooper Flag. Or like with baseball, you can get drafted right out of high school. And football is the only one that's different where like you can get drafted after college. Like you have to go play at least 3 years in college. It's not 4 anymore, it's 3. You have to go play 3 years in college and then you can get drafted. And that's the only like new thing is that like, I mean, it's not even like relatively new. It's like been a thing for a while, but like after 3 years you can get drafted. But it's just like that's a normal thing. You know what I mean? It's like you watch the draft and you watch these players that you've watched for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, some of them go get drafted. And that's just like the thing. It's not like it's nothing new. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the draft, even for me, I have watched it live some years, but like if I fall asleep or maybe, if I had stuff on the next day, I would open I would treat it how I would treat games that I missed. I would open YouTube and then make sure not to read any spoilers and open the YouTube video of like the top, the first 10 picks or whatever. So make sure that I can watch it completely unspoiled. Like, for example, I remember just off the top of my head, 2018, right? That was the year Baker, Saquon, obviously there was Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, like quite a famous draft. But Sam Darnold, actually, funny enough, went to number 3 in that one. But like I remember like reading so many reports before that draft about like what like obviously the Browns had the first pick, they ended up taking Baker Mayfield, and like reading like, oh, will Sam Darnold go number 1, and then it was like, oh, Baker 1, and then they'll take Saquon at 4, and then like they'd have Baker and Saquon like in Cleveland. It'd be unbelievable. And I was like, oh, I love that idea. And then I remember when Saquon went 2, I was like, no, like, because I thought anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm kind of rambling, but my point is that I love like running through the permutations of when a player goes somewhere and what impact they can have on that roster. And it works out for some players. Like you even look at that actual draft class, like Baker didn't work out in Cleveland he kind of did, but I mean, he's not there anymore. And equally, Darnold obviously didn't work out with the Jets, but then like Josh Allen and Lamar turned their whole franchises around. And there was a fifth quarterback in that draft. Brownie points for anybody who who can remember who that was. Josh Rosen went to the Cardinals, I think. So sorry, are you there?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Okay.
Oh,
Wait. What happened?
Hands frozen. Oh, you're back. You're back. You're back. No, that's so good. I thought. No, you're good. You're good. You're back. So yeah. Anyway, like I've always had a lot of love for the draft. And especially this year is a lot different for me as well because we've been speaking about a lot of players, and I think Mendoza's just got to go number one. But after that, like there's just a lot of interesting stuff, and you just see what a player can do. Like a player comes into a team and can turn them into Super Bowl contenders in just 1 year. Like it's amazing. And equally, a player can get drafted and derail a franchise for like Jamarcus Russell to the Raiders. Like like you miss your, like if you miss on a draft pick, especially a first round draft pick, like it can have really bad implications for your team for a long time. Lauren, I think you're frozen. Oh, okay, guys. Welcome to the Burn Nerd Show. I don't know if she's gonna be able to come back in. We're gonna keep the recording going live. I mean, I can talk about. I can run the rest of this solo. I don't know what happened there. She must be having connection issues. She was freezing a little bit. We'll see if she can rejoin the call. But in the meantime, I will discuss the draft by myself. I do think Fernando Mendoza is going to go number one overall. That'll be the Raiders. And as far as I'm aware, Tom Brady is also involved with the Raiders. And they've got a nice new stadium there in Vegas. So that's what we can look out for. Mendoza working under Brady and the Raiders. Now, I don't think Mendoza is going to have a very, very successful first year, as most quarterbacks don't. You look at Cam Ward this year with the Titans. Unfortunately, the way the draft goes, the team picking number one generally has had a bad season, generally will have a rough roster and not enough talent around a young quarterback, unless you can keep them upright, which is something that the Patriots have kind of failed to do with Drake May. Equally, the Bengals failed to do it with Joe Burrow. They decided to pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow a lot of money. And when you pay these guys a lot of money, you lose the ability to protect them properly. And I mean, look at Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck ended up retiring early because he just took so many hits to the body. And honestly, Joe Burrow could go the same way. We will see if we can get Lauren back in. I don't know if I can. I'll see if I can send her the link. Okay. I think we'll keep the recording live. Maybe we can edit out this whole section where I'm talking by myself. We'll see if we can get Lauren back in. But otherwise, I think there'll be two edge defenders. I think Ruben Bain Jr. He's from the University of Miami. There's also Arvell Reese from Ohio State. I think they'll go pretty high up. But to be honest, I think next year's draft class is going to be way more interesting. This year's draft class is honestly quite weak. That's not to underestimate a class coming in because, as I said, a rookie player, drafted anywhere, like from a second round pick to a Tom Brady being a sixth round pick, like you can have impact at any level. But it just depends on, I think you have to just go to the right system. Coaching makes a huge difference. I think the structure, like the environment that you enter, which is unfortunately the case for most high draft picks, they enter usually a franchise that is changing head coaches and like just having a lot of issues within their organization, which is the challenging part for them. We're going to try to see if we can reconnect Lauren here. Anyway, next year's draft class. I'm still here, by the way. I hope you are too. Arch Manning. Arch Manning is the nephew of Eli and Peyton. So there are 3, possibly 4 brothers in that family, but Cooper, who was the brother of Peyton and Eli. I don't think he played football. I think he may have had injury issues. Cooper's son is Arch Manning, and Arch Manning right now is the quarterback at Texas, the University of Texas. And Arch Manning, depending on how the season goes, I would say even a rough estimate would put him in the first round. And if he has a pretty solid season, I just think based on name and pedigree alone, he'll be a top 5, and I would be surprised if he didn't go anywhere else but number 1. And that could depend on either a QB needy team being at number 1 or somebody trading into the number 1 spot to take Arch Manning, who I expect there'll be some good players here. Lauren has returned. And Jeremiah Smith.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I have no idea what.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, I've just run it for the last 5 minutes. I've just
Okay,
given
good.
given my whole lowdown on the draft and draft players coming up this season and the season after that. But you were like, your camera was kind of freezing there. I'm just gonna keep running the episode, by the way. Like, I haven't paused or anything because I was running that shit solo. I was just running it solo. Didn't even need you here, Lauren. But your camera was freezing, and then you just seemed to DC out of the calls. So you're back now.
Yeah. No, we should be good now. My computer gets like, I'll have a ton of tabs open, and because I'm in my job search, there's like always tabs open, and then it makes my computer go slower. And I was trying to close all of them, and I didn't close this one, but I guess like in the process, my computer was like, wait a minute, we need a second. And it just.
Yeah, not a problem. I've kept the show on the road. So we were discussing drafts, and I guess your perspective on drafts from America, because as I was saying, it's very unique, and I've always thought the idea of okay, so let's just, to put it simply, what I enjoy about the draft is it allows weaker teams to compete, right? So the beauty about the league, the NFL, right, is that it has a salary cap. Now, for people who don't know, the salary cap is like, as it describes, it's a cap on the salaries. So you cannot pay all the best players all the top money, right? Like, it's capped. There's a limit, right? But in professional sports over in Europe, this doesn't exist. So what ends up is there kind of being a very like top-heavy system where like the rich get richer and the rich can continue paying. Like if you look at the salary, let's just say the wage bill of a top soccer team compared to like a lower tier soccer team, like it's just night and day. Like they're not even, these players are on ridiculous money. But what I've always loved about the draft is, okay, the number 1 pick team has had the worst season, and unfortunately for most, as I was describing in my solo run right there, that organization usually is, obviously they've had a bad season. They're probably changing head coaches. There's probably a lot of uncertainty within the organization, probably a bit of a messy organization. Like, look at Cam Ward with the Titans, and many other first round, but specifically like first overall picks who thanks to just the need of the position, is they're generally quarterbacks. But it does give you that chance, right? And if you pick the right player with the right head coach, look at the Bears, right? A team I like a lot. I'm a big fan of Caleb Williams. Like the Bears have been kind of bad for a very long time now. They've been really just mid team. They get Ben Johnson, and then they pair him with Caleb Williams, and boom, they just win the division in probably one of the most competitive divisions. So it just, to me, it has always felt fair. And like, I went to university, I studied law. Like I'm big on justice. And to me, I like giving bad teams the opportunity to take the best players, to me, is justice. And it means that the league remains competitive all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, it does make sense. Like it sucks like when you're, you go from being the best, like Fernando Mendoza winning the Heisman, you're being the best and you win the national championship, and then you go to the lowest team. And obviously they take turns. Like if the same team sucks every single year, like you can't make the Jets be the first round every single year. Jets shade, but it's true. And so obviously the Raiders get it this year, and it's not like they're coming off like a fantastic season either, obviously. I mean, they didn't have a good season whatsoever. They just hired their new coach, Clint Kubiak. I think that's how you say his name. But getting someone like Fernando, which like obviously he's projected to go, and I don't know if you've seen any of them, but there have been a lot of like Fernando Mendoza memes like at the Raiders, and it's like him getting like sacked or him losing all of these games after winning, you know, a national championship. And it almost makes you like feel bad having to see someone like Fernando, just like this perfect little angel who also just happens to be a beast in football and the kind of quarterback that like any team is going to want, obviously, but he's going to end up at the Raiders. I don't know, but there's like been a lot of memes and they're really funny. But yeah, he'll definitely go to them. And there is some talk of like a trade being made, but I don't know if that's like 100% real or if it even was going to happen. And it was that like the Raiders would get Lamar Jackson and then the Ravens would get the first round pick and get Fernando Mendoza. And I think that that's kind of interesting. I don't think it's happening. I haven't really heard much about it since. Maybe it was a joke that I even saw. Maybe it was just like, but that would be interesting to see him, to see what he could do with the Ravens, because obviously they didn't, you know, make the playoffs or like go far in the playoffs whatsoever, but they have a more put together team than the Raiders, I would say. But I mean, it's only if he goes there, like if you only play out your contract, you get traded, whatever, like he'd be there for a few years and then hopefully get to go somewhere else. Like obviously it's not like Baker stayed with the Bears forever, you know, you move around, you do whatever. And that's what he would most likely do. But he'll be first for sure. And he'll go to the Raiders, see what he can do over there, tear it up over there, hopefully. But I don't know if he's like, I love him, but I have some trouble seeing him playing in the NFL. I don't know. Like maybe it's just because I view him as this like I view him as like a baby and this like little angel child and just like a little cherub. And I can't picture him playing in the NFL, getting knocked down by those guys who have been playing the NFL for some of them 20 years, you know?
Did you see what he did on that 4th down carry, Lauren? He put the team on his back.
Obviously.
He put the entire Indiana University program on his back. He ran through 2 defenders and dived into the end zone. And you think this man, he's 6'5" and 230 pounds or something. You think he can't take a good schmack in the NFL?
He can. It's just I'm like having trouble picturing him playing in the NFL. I don't know why. Like it's not that he can't like live up to the expectation, but like I don't know. I see him as like I associate him with Indiana and playing in college football.
Yeah.
I don't know why I don't see him like anyone else who gets drafted. I'm like, oh, they're gonna do great in the NFL, or they're not gonna do great in the NFL. For Fernando, I'm literally like, let's see. I don't know. Like I can't have a prediction of how he'll play because I honestly cannot see him playing in the NFL. I don't know. Not that he won't start or not that he wouldn't play. No, nothing like that. But like for some reason, my mind doesn't go to like Fernando will now be in the NFL. Fernando is going to be a first round pick, which like I know that. I know he's going to be a first round pick. Obviously, why wouldn't he be? But anything after that is where I reach a little stopping point. Yeah. After he gets drafted, I'm like, I have no other opinion. I don't know why. I can't see going past the draft.
There will be a lot of eyes on him. I think the main argument will be like, was it just is he just a system? Has he just benefited from like, you know, a system that suited his play style? Like, can he, you know, and that's the question for everybody. Like, can they actually transition into a pro system or a different system? Different head coaches, obviously more advanced defenses as well. But speaking of college players leaving, but actually let's take a look at college players who are staying. So obviously college players coming towards the end of their careers as a college student, they can elect to, you know, declare for the draft early, or they can return. You know, they don't have to necessarily leave at a certain time, but there will be some pressure on players, and I want to bring a player who's very close to your heart. And no, I'm not talking about Mendoza, but I think there'll be a lot of eyes on DJ Lagway, obviously previously quarterback of the University of Florida. He has transferred to Baylor. And a second player who, like, I just want to bring up because I feel like I've been hearing about this guy for years, and it was like he almost burst onto the scene. Like I kind of started seeing clips of him, in this one game, and he was just unbelievable. Ryan Williams, wide receiver from Alabama. He is remaining in Alabama, but when he kind of burst on, I don't want to be disrespectful for saying burst on the scene, but like when I started coming across this guy, like it was like 17, he's dominating college, like this guy versus Jeremiah Smith, who's the superstar in Ohio. And he just has, like, for me, he has just not lived up to that expectation. That was 2 seasons ago. Then like this season gone, he just has not hit that level. And I'm talking about like dropped passes, very, very poor offensive play compared to Jeremiah Smith, who looks like the hype with Jeremiah Smith, who's obviously the other kind of highly rated wide receiver. Specifically, that's for next year's draft, we'll say, but they will both be in college next year. So I think there's pressure on certain players. There's pressure if you move school. In DJ Lagway's case, he's kind of taken a step down. Like, if you want to be realistic, the SEC is for the big boys in college football, and he's kind of maybe avoiding the limelight, which could help him actually. It is, transferring works for Mendoza, so it could work hypothetically for Lagway. But DJ Lagway had a huge amount of hype about him coming out of high school. I believe he was a 5-star prospect, which is like means you're very, very, very legitimate. Presumably signed, as you've mentioned before, like a NIL deal with the University of Florida, a lot of money, and he was just extremely poor as a quarterback in the SEC. So there's pressure on him. How do you see kind of his season faring out next year with Baylor?
Well, first I want to say this about Ryan Williams before I forget, because I think that obviously, his freshman season was so notable. And that's when everyone started looking at him. They were like, this kid's 17 years old playing for Alabama, and he is making his name very well known very quickly. Like, everyone wants to see what he's going to do. Everyone wants to see how much he's going to progress next year. Look at how good he is now. Imagine what he can do next year. And then, like you said, like the drop passes, not really putting up the numbers that people expected from him. But instead, you had Malachi Toney at Miami, who was literally in the same position, who obviously, it was ACC and not SEC, so like a little less hype, but another 17-year-old playing at a D1 school, winning, ending up in the national championship. He is like a rocket. Like, Malachi Toney is one of the most impressive wide receivers that I've seen since, I'm not even going to say since Ryan Williams, but that was the expectation that people had for him. People were comparing Malachi Toney this year to Ryan Williams last year. They weren't even comparing them to this year because Malachi Toney was looking better than Ryan Williams. It was almost like that freshman 17-year-old playing better than you would expect them to. So it makes me question if Malachi Toney has the same thing happen to him next year that happened to Ryan Williams this year. Obviously 2 very different teams, 2 different offensive coordinators, 2 different wide receivers coaches, 2 different head coaches, 2 different conferences. Everything is different. But after the year that Malachi Toney just had as wide receiver, like, I don't see him slowing down. Granted, I didn't see Ryan Williams slowing down, but he did. So I could be wrong in that. But it was very impressive to see 2 wide receivers that were so similar to each other and have so much talent and be on good football teams. Obviously, Ryan Williams on Alabama. Alabama's notably been a very, very competitive team for years. You have the Saban era. You have them going to the conference this year. And Malachi Toney with Miami, they just missed out on college football playoffs last year. They make it this year. People questioned if they should, and then they end up in the national championship. So I would arguably say that Malachi Toney had a better freshman breakout season than Ryan Williams once you compare the 2. But they obviously are both staying with their teams, which I think is right for both of them. Like, if I were Ryan Williams, why would I leave? I'm playing for Alabama. I'm starting. My stats are way better than other wide receivers in the SEC. Why would I leave? So that's my take on that. When it comes to DJ Lagway, he's no longer close to my heart. Fernando Mendoza is way closer than him. Said that. But he's taking a few steps down. I'm not going to lie. It's not even like SEC to Big 10, SEC to ACC. He's going to Big 12. And who does Big 12 have? There's Arizona, there's Arizona State, obviously Baylor, BYU. BYU did pretty well this year, and there's, Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, I guess. Texas Tech looked pretty good this year, obviously, and Houston. But in that, conference, the hierarchy is different because you're not playing the most competitive teams in college football. You are playing a few competitive teams here and there. I think that it's going to be a lot easier for him to look better as a quarterback with the team that Baylor is and the team that they have been compared to the team that he was on with Florida. Like the expectations are up here. He couldn't even get here. You know what I mean? Versus at Baylor, their expectations are like right here. That's when he's going to hit his peak. That's when he's going to hit his mark because not only are the expectations lower, but he is a talented quarterback. He was a 5-star quarterback out of Texas. High school football in Texas is like as big as college in other states. So like to be a 5-star from Texas and to be recruited to an SEC school, have a pretty good freshman season, and then for lack of better words, shit the bed your sophomore season, going back to his home state to a Big 12 conference that isn't known for having the biggest teams. Obviously, like I said, I mean, BYU and Texas Tech are the outliers there, but I mean, a few others, you know, but for the most part, the competitiveness is not like it is in the SEC where every single team is essentially good for the most part. I don't want to hear anything about Florida, but they're going to compete day in and day out. And not that they don't at Baylor, but it's just the expectation is lower. You don't pay attention to Big 12 as much unless it's those like, you know, BYU, Texas Tech teams, TCU, if they want to be good, you know, Colorado hasn't really done much recently, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like the expectation is lower. I don't see how he could really not succeed there, especially because he is back in his home state. Everyone in Texas loves DJ Lagway versus in Florida, we were bidding him up goodbye. We were literally helping him to his car to the airport. You know what I mean? Like we were ready for him to be gone here. He's going to get a warm welcome coming back home. Baylor has so much money. Their stadium is gorgeous, as does every school in Texas, honestly, because of oil. But they have so much money. They're going to be able to pay him same NIL, if not more. And I think that he'll do fine in that conference. He's going to do better than he would have here. So I'm okay with him leaving. I'm okay with him going to Baylor of all places. I think he'll be happy there. And that's really all you can ask, you know. I don't want you here. I'm happy you're gone, but I hope that you're happy with where you went, you know?
Wow. Is there not an argument? Now, I'm just being devil's advocate here. Is there an argument about the coaching that was in place during Lagway's time at University of Florida? So Billy Napier was the head coach of the University of Florida while Lagway was here. Now, you have a much better, kind of literally insider knowledge on the head coaching of college coaches, but Napier wasn't the most popular. He recently got fired. I believe he finished in Florida with a losing record, which, at the SEC, I'm stating the obvious there, which I presume, not that it's a good thing anywhere, but like I'm sure in an SEC school, if you leave, like if you're in at the big boys' house in the SEC and you're not winning more games than you're losing, like there's something wrong there. So I mean, is it a case, or like could you make the case that Lagway just walked into a bit of a sinking ship, maybe with Billy Napier?
This is actually one of my favorite subjects. Anytime that I can talk about the destruction that William Napier brought to our program. I think I've said it once and I'll say it again. It takes a very talented kind of man to take a 5-star quarterback from Texas and turn him into what DJ Lagway became. There is not a doubt in my mind that if there were a different coach, DJ Lagway would have looked differently. The Florida Gators season would have looked differently. Obviously, it's different when you have, your quarterback coaches and your offensive coordinator. Oh, but Florida didn't have an offensive coordinator because Billy Napier refused to hire one. Therefore, he is calling all of the plays for DJ Lagway, telling him to do things that he probably didn't need to do in that play. For example, when he was fired on October 19th, no more Napier Day. It's a national holiday for me. And the interim head coach, Billy Gonzalez, gave the play calling duties over to the wide receiver coach, and Russ Holloway to be able to do what they wanted to do with DJ. He started running more, which he's always been able to do. But Billy Napier was keeping him in this little bubble of not wanting him to get hurt because he really had no one. He had no backup that was going to do what he wanted. Except that's not true because Jamal Jones was actually a really good quarterback. He just didn't trust him. I don't think that he trusted a lot of the offense as much as he should have. And instead, he put way too much trust into DJ Lagway. And I think that he was crumbling under the pressure Not only that, but Florida boosters, Florida fans, Florida alumni, they all were watching and waiting for him to do something spectacular. Quoting The Incredibles, something amazing, I guess. I don't know. And he didn't do that because Billy Napier didn't give him the chance to do that. He was selfish. He wouldn't give up play calling abilities. He wouldn't hire an offensive coordinator because he wanted to be the one to call the plays for this 5-star quarterback that he got from Texas. And look what I'm going to do with him. I'm going to make him look terrible. Congrats. You did that. And then you got fired. And then he transferred. And you left with a 22-23 record, the most losing record since the 40s when they wore leather helmets. Just to put that in perspective for you. Florida has not had a head coach with a losing record that bad since they literally wore leather on their heads. I feel like that speaks for itself. He did not do as long as he should have. So to answer your question, whether it was a yes or no one, but I'll say either way. Yes, Billy Napier ruined DJ Lagway, and I think that he will excel at this is DJ Lagway, not Billy Napier. DJ Lagway will excel at another school where he has an offensive coordinator, where he has a coach that understands him, where he has, quarterback coaches who are going. I mean, his quarterback coach here was, good. I mean, and I really like what Russ Callaway was able to do with him. I think that he could have done a lot more if he was given more reins, but that's neither here nor there anymore. But like I said, when you have a coach like Billy Napier who will not give up the things he should, like play calling, and not really take into consideration what his quarterback can and can't do, then you're going to have an outcome like the way that the Florida Gators did. And DJ Lagway looked bad, and the Gators lost, and he got fired. That's what happens. And that's how I feel about that.
So this is an announcement for John Sumrall, the new head coach of the University of Florida. You best not screw up, because I think Lauren is going to come for you and say a lot of bad stuff, because I can sense, I can feel your hatred for Billy Napier and what he did to the Florida program over his 3 or 4 seasons that he was there with his losing record, 4 years. Just running it into the ground, and as we've kind of joked about, but maybe maybe I'm safe over here at this side of the Atlantic. But yeah, I mean, how many games did Florida win last year? Was it 3? Was it like 4? 4. And the coping mechanism of like, oh, we beat Florida State, so it was a winning season. Yeah, don't see it that way, but so John Sumrall, new head coach. Okay, so exciting times for the Talkin College show, because the University of Florida has turned a new page. We've got a new head coach, John Sumrall, come over from actually like historically pretty good success at okay, albeit maybe lower, smaller programs, but he knows how to win, and he knows how to turn around programs, and that's probably exactly what Florida need right now. And presumably a new quarterback. I haven't heard any rumors. I don't know who the starting quarterback will be for Florida, but there'll be a new head coach and a new QB1 in the swamp next year. So exciting times until you guys have another 4-win season.
That's not gonna happen.
No.
It's set up anymore. Now we have different opponents, and we talked about that last episode. But I think it'll be exciting to be able to play teams like Auburn and a lot of them that we haven't seen in a really long time. So we'll see how he does. I like Sumrall though. I like what he brings to the program. I think he's crazy in the best way, and he's going to bring a lot to the sideline. I think the players are going to be able to look up to him a lot, and I hope that every other school, feels the same way with all of their new coaches, like Auburn with Alex Golish and maybe Lane Kiffin at LSU. Like, I don't know. Like, hopefully they all feel like the coach that they got is the coach that they wanted and are as ambitious as I am with Sumrall, because I still am firm in the fact that until he gives me a reason to not like him, I'm going to support him. And I feel like that's how like every fan base should feel with the coach that they got, considering it felt like half of them were fired this year. I mean, half of the SEC coaches were fired and brought in new people. So I know that Ole Miss was pretty happy with Pete Golding becoming theirs. And I'm having on good authority that Auburn's pretty happy with getting Alex Golish, and he did very well in the portal, and he brought Byron Brown with him. So Auburn season will be very interesting next year too. I'm pretty excited for that one. Not excited, but like
you've been watching out for it.
How it plays out. Yeah, I'll watch more Auburn games this year than I would have last year.
Is there a feeling around the SEC that like there's a lot of unknowns heading into next season? Like, as you said, there's loads of new coaches. Obviously, Florida have struggled. They've got a new system now, and LSU have struggled, and now they've got like crazy stuff going on there. So I mean, and obviously like the quarterback turnover, like Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson is leaving, and all this kind of stuff. So like, is it kind of like, does next season, maybe more so than other seasons because of all the head coaching moves and the new quarterbacks and stuff, does next season really feel like a blank canvas in the SEC?
It's almost, it's like a blank canvas, but it's like you have an outline. You know what I mean? Like you have an idea of what you think it's going to look like, but you could fully like put your fist through it and start over. Like I think after like week 4, like after they get done like playing all of those like little nobody teams, sorry, that you're not really much in the beginning. So maybe like week 3, we'll kind of get a good idea, I feel like, of where a lot of teams are at, because the coaches are settled and the players are settled, and you have your starting quarterback figured out, you have all of your coaches knowing what plays are going into everything. And I feel like a lot of that comes out when you get into actual SEC play instead of playing those other teams. I bet they're so nice, but they're on the schedule. Thanks. BYU was who Florida started with this year. We shut him out. Tramel Jones had more touchdown, did better than DJ Lagway in the first game. I feel like that should have been a real teller for how the season would go. Just saying.
Yep.
But it's not that it's unpredictable, it's that it's predictable in the sense that you don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like you can make your predictions for how a team is going to look, but I am predicting that I am unsure. I can think that I know how a team is going to look, and I can predict that they're going to have this record. But like I said, after week 3, 4, or 5, that's when I'll get an actual feel on each SEC team, especially the ones with new coaches, like with Alex Golesh at Auburn, and with Kiffin being at LSU, with Summerall at Florida, and all of the new changes that were made. I'll get a better feel after 3, 4, or 5. I can give you a prediction now, but it could totally be wrong, and I can see something I either really like from one coach or really don't like from another, and then I'm going to change my prediction. So I can't give you any yet.
Okay, just well, on that note, let's finish. Let's have a concluding note to episode 9. I'm going to ask you for a prediction right now, but there's one important aspect to this. I'm going to ask you to remove your bias, remove your love, just step away from Florida for a second. Just remove your bias. Just try look at Florida from an outside view. Just try and imagine that you're not a Gator, right? And you're looking at kind of what Florida has done in the last month or two, and remove the past seasons, remove your insane love and passion for this program, for this school, and you're looking at Florida heading into next season. Are you okay? I'll ask a very specific question instead of some sort of abstract one. Do you think Florida objectively have a chance of making the football playoffs next season?
No. Oh. Playoffs? No.
That's good honesty from you. I would have said I'd say certainly yes.
I am not going to act like I'm not even supposed to say we, like as a journalist. But I'm not gonna try and talk up a lot. I mean, it takes a special kind of coach, Crooks-Ignetti being one, that in your first year you turn around an entire football team and make the college football playoffs your first year as head coach. That's unheard of. I mean, granted, he's in the Big Ten, but an SEC coach should go in year 1 and make college football playoffs that year, and the 12 team, no, that's unheard of. I don't think that I've seen it done in this era, unless I'm like blanking out on a coach that did it and I'm forgetting, but to my recollection, I can't think of one at the moment. And I don't think that Summerall's the exception. Would I love for him to be? Absolutely. But I really don't have an expectation that he will be the coach that gets to go to the college football playoffs in his first season in the SEC. No.
So what in your opinion, what is Florida's ceiling? Like what is there, or what can they reasonably achieve
Like
next year?
record
Yeah, I mean, like, will they win more games? Will they have a winning record?
winning record. Well,
So you kind
okay,
of had
I
them
would.
around. You kind of had them around like the 0.500 mark, kind of.
Yeah, my prediction for next season was like a solid like 7-5, 7-4, maybe
Okay.
8-4.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be upset with that. If he goes 6-6, I would be saying that he is not doing a bad job still. Because I mean, if you
Okay.
look at Lane Kiffin's first year with Ole Miss, he was, I believe, 5-7. Next year was 7-5. Year after that, 8-4, 10-2. Like it's not going to happen right away. Lane Kiffin's a perfect example. As much as I hate to use him as an example, I mean, his first season, Ole Miss, like I said, he was 5-7, and then after that was when you got a winning record. So for me, if Summerall breaks even with a 6-6 record for his first season, I would be okay with that, especially with the matchups that the SEC has every team going up against now. Like you have to,
Yeah.
like we talked about last week or 2 episodes ago or 2 weeks ago, last episode. You have to face more SEC opponents now. So if he was able to come out of next season with a 6-6 record, I'd be more than okay with that. 5-7, I'd be like, honestly, could be worse because maybe he has like a Kiffin run and he has a 5-7 first season. Next one 7-5, 8-4, 9-3. You know, it just it takes a lot for a coach to be able to do that much in one season. If he came out next season with an 8-4 record, I would literally kiss the ground he walks on. I would be praising him. I would send thank you notes to
That
his
would be a good
house.
first. That would be a good first year. That would be a good first season,
That'd
especially
be
like going from
extraordinary.
going from 4 wins to 8 wins with the new head coach. Like that'd be a good turnaround.
But see, I'm not going to say that I think that'll happen. I would, like I said, I'd be happy with a 6-6. I would say my prediction is 6-6 or 7-5, but I'm happier saying 6-6. But still, a winning
Okay.
record to me is more than 4 wins right now. So I don't
Wow.
really.
Yeah. Okay. We will revisit this topic closer to the beginning of the season. Lauren, as
Feel about
always, an absolute pleasure. I think we'll park it there. We did have a bit of a technical issue there in mid episode, but like
it.
we we came through. Lauren, thanks for being here. I appreciate your time as always. And to anybody who's made it to the end of the episode, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.